How's it going, guys? Luis here, and like many of you, I'm still on that Sonic Mania / Sonic 2017 hype train. Drop a like if you are too. Yesterday I put out my first impressions of Sonic Mania on the channel, and a lot of you were quick to point out some Easter eggs in the gameplay, so I wanted to make this dedicated Easter egg video for both Sonic Mania and Sonic 2017. Now, I did a bit of research for these Easter eggs, and during that research I think I may have found the writer for Sonic 2017. Yesterday at the Sonic 25th anniversary party, attendees received a special edition copy of the new Sonic Mega Drive comic book that's written by Ian Flynn. Ian Flynn has worked on a bunch of Sonic comic series like Sonic the Hedgehog, Sonic Universe, and Sonic Boom. The whole Sonic Archie comic staff was at the event too, signing people's comic books. What I found interesting about this is that there's a really popular rumor going around online that Sonic Mania and Sonic 2017 are connected by the story plot. The theory goes that Sonic Mania is a prequel to Sonic 2017, where Eggman's empire will rise in Sonic Mania with classic Sonic, and Sonic 2017 will be the big resistance battle including modern Sonic. The new Sonic Mega Drive comic follows classic Sonic and his friends fighting Eggman, and according to Ian, the comic, although it's a standalone comic book series, is still canon with the Sonic universe. Ian was talking about some secret projects he was working on, but he couldn't reveal anything just yet. Later that day, Ian tweeted out that if he was writing Sonic Resistance, referencing Sonic 2017, he wouldn't be able to say if he was, and if he wasn't writing the game story, then he's simply just not writing it. I feel like if he wasn't writing the game story, he would clearly just state that he wasn't. Seems like it's possible that Sega might be trusting Ian more now that he's writing the comic books as well as the Sonic Boom show. Perhaps Sonic 2017 will be his video game story debut. Anyway, let's move on to some Easter eggs, but feel free to discuss your thoughts on the theory below. During the Sonic Mania intro animation, if you can somehow resist looking at the beautiful animation, you can clearly see the island in the background that's modeled after Sonic's head. It's a cool little Easter egg celebrating the iconic game character. Actually, if you pay attention to the ring behind Sonic in the intro animation, you'll see that it's actually a replica of the little frame around the Sega Genesis controller's D-pad. That's pretty sick. There's also this cool little Easter egg that happens every time you have 100 rings or more and you lose them. You'll notice that when you lose those rings, they actually get bigger and they sort of pop out at the screen as you lose them. They don't just fall apart all across the level, but they actually pop out in a 3D motion. That's kinda cool. Now there's two stages we know about so far in Sonic Mania, a remix of Green Hill Zone and a new zone called Studiopolis. There aren't too many Easter eggs in Green Hill Zone, but there's a ton of them in Studiopolis. In fact, Studiopolis has an Easter egg in its name alone. Studiopolis is actually a real-life recording studio not too far from me here in LA, where a lot of voice acting for games, anime, and cartoons are done. This is also the studio where Sonic Boom the cartoon was recorded, including every single Sonic game with voice acting since 2010. Naming this new zone after Studiopolis is a nice little nod to where a bunch of Sonic's voice acting came from. Now, throughout Studiopolis, there's a ton of bounce pads connected to chains that can cause some trouble for Sonic. This is actually a reference to some cut content from the original Sonic the Hedgehog game. In the Portuguese commercial for Sonic 1, you can see that the Green Hill Zone boss fight with Eggman features a different colored wrecking ball. In fact, the wrecking ball in that commercial is the ball on a chain from Studiopolis. Shout out to Definitive Dubs on Reddit for finding this. I have no idea how you were able to find that. Now in the background of Studiopolis, you can find a little animation of Dr. Eggman dancing. The design actually follows some concept art for Eggman that's stylized to look like an old retro cartoon, because the whole level theme is around the TV network. Now occasionally in Studiopolis, you'll be beamed from a studio van to a TV. The van you're transferred from has a little logo on it called Hornet High Class. This is actually a reference to one of the cars in Daytona, USA that has the same logo. The car itself is actually a playable car in Sonic All-Stars Racing Transformed. Now the TV you're beamed to from this van is actually a Game Gear TV. If you look at the TV, you'll notice that the frame around it is actually themed around the Sega Game Gear portable system. Now that's a pretty badass TV if I do say so myself. In the background of Studiopolis, you'll occasionally find a club called Club Spin Ages. Club Spin could be a reference to Club Sega, an arcade building in Japan with a bunch of different Sega games. Ages is actually just Sega spelled backwards. In fact, Ages was a character in Sonic All-Stars Racing Transformed as well, that was actually just a virtual memory unit for the Dreamcast. There's also a building in Studiopolis called Pinkbot. This is actually a reference to the building in the game Streets of Rage, also from Sega. In Streets of Rage, there's a building called Pine Pot that looks exactly like the one called Pinkbot in this new Sonic game. At the end of the Studiopolis zone, you're shot out of a popcorn machine called Sega Sonic Popcorn Shop. This is actually a reference to an old 1993 game for a Sega vending machine / arcade machine. People would buy popcorn from the machine, and while the popcorn was being popped, players would be able to play a minigame on the screen where Sonic and Tails are trying to deliver their popcorn while Eggman is trying to stop them. It's an awesome little detail for such an obscure game that probably no one remembers. Now on to Sonic 2017. Right at the intro of the trailer, we get to look at these giant robots destroying the city. These robots look almost exactly like the Death Egg robots from the original Sonic the Hedgehog games, with a slight tweak to the head design. There's without a doubt that Eggman is behind the destruction, but the question is it really only one Eggman, or is it multiple ones? Now, the city that the trailer takes place in looks very similar to the San Francisco themed city that City Escape takes place in. Perhaps this is the setting for the new trailer. There's also an instance where some buildings are thrown over at Sonic. 3 pieces of buildings specifically are thrown, a blue one, a red one, and a yellow one, possibly symbolizing most likely the trio of friends Sonic, Knuckles, and Tails. Perhaps Sonic won't be the only playable character this time around. Lastly, in the trailer, when modern Sonic is about to be crushed by a building, classic Sonic saves him, but also strikes a pose that is a reference to some character artwork from the Sonic the Hedgehog history book. That's a cool little reference for some artwork that ultimately ended up getting scrapped instead of being used in a video game. And that's pretty much everything I was able to note from the Sonic Mania and Sonic 2017 trailers, but let me know if I may have missed something that you caught in the comment section below. Thank you all very much for watching the video. If you enjoyed it, smack a like on it, subscribe to be notified whenever I release more content like this, and I'll see you guys in the next one. See you later, guys.